So hi and welcome to the Data Explorers Market Update, where I'm very pleased to be joined by Kevin McNulty, Chief Executive of discl, who has come in at the last, on very short notice, to basically talk through the vote that took place in Europe 2 nights ago, and we need to discuss the ramifications of that because you are the expert and have been working very hard on that. So let's just go straight into what is it? Has a law been passed, or is it some consultation that has been opined on? What's just happened?
Okay, well we're through the consultation phase some time ago, and what we're dealing with now is the lawmaking. What we had on Monday evening was the European Parliament approved a text for some regulations to do with short selling, and that's one part of the process. And I'll talk a little bit later, if you like, about what happens next. So
the Parliament has voted 38-4 on CDS and short selling, but if we leave the CDS piece to one side, because it's not really for our core constituency, but what was the vote on the sort of short selling related aspect?
So the key provisions that we are concerned about are to do with transparency. So the new proposal from the Parliament requires that there be disclosure of short sales to regulators at 0.1% of issued share capital and to the market at 0.5%. Importantly, and this is perhaps the most significant development that we've had, is that public disclosure will be made anonymously, something we've been fighting for. Elsewhere in these rules...
Sorry, just stop you there. So because there wasn't a consultation from, is it CESA?
Yes.
Yes, was recommending what they're doing in Spain, which is 0.25% of a company's market cap is disclosed to the regulator privately, 0.5% and above is publicly disclosed.
Well, the helpful change that the Parliament...
But there's been a very helpful change here for those people worried about piggybacking on short sales and things.
That's right. And it's not, as we'll come on to in a moment, we're not done yet on this, but it's important that the Parliament have recognised that anonymous reporting is helpful.
So and also the threshold is so nothing at 0.25. 0.5 is the...
That's correct.
Is with the kick-in point, but that's still a private disclosure.
That's correct.
Which is, and so that hats off to the various trade associations and all the work that's gone in, and the various prime brokers have been going backwards and forwards to Luxembourg and Brussels to kind of get that point across, and they have accepted that contrary to what we might have felt given some of the feedback you were getting along the way. So the second part isn't it to do with the locate? We talk a little bit about that.
Yes, and the parliamentary proposal is a bit tougher than we would like, requiring that short sales are located and reserved by the close of business on the day of the short sale. We were hoping, and are still hoping, to get a slightly softer locate regime as exists like in the US, but our work will now be with other
Is it possible?
groups.
Probably not, but to give a very quick, what does that mean, locate and reserve, compared to how things are done right now?
Yeah, it's not entirely clear, but I think most of us believe that it means that by the end of the day, on the trading day of the sale, there needs to be a borrow in place.
So it brings forward the requirement to deliver from 3 days to same day.
It's essentially the requirement to have borrowed the security, which at the moment in many markets will happen on T+1, and happens in liquid securities on T+1 quite happily, but the requirement is on T.
Right, on T. Okay, so that's quite the big news. I think also relevant to say is that they've said that all transactions will need to be marked as short sales, which is not something that currently exists.
That's correct, and this is another sort of, if you like, import from the US market. There is a requirement to flag all short sales, but the information from that flagging won't be made public, which is interesting.
Right. And no aggregation publication plans at this
correct.
stage. Thanks to you guys saying, hang on a second, there's no great informational value in short selling volume getting bigger and bigger and bigger every day.
That's right. We're a little disappointed to see it in there, but nonetheless, it's...
Okay, so this is So to recap and look at what's happening next, this is the Parliament has just voted here. Where does it go from here before it goes to the member states to become, something that we have to adhere to?
Before it becomes law in Europe, it also has to be approved and agreed by the European Council, which is the Council of Ministers. They are working on a text at the moment, and we'll see that hopefully fairly soon. Once that's approved, then the Commission get the two parties together and hammer out a compromise text. We suspect that will be sometime in the summer.
Do we have any suspicion that the Council has a different view to the Parliament on what's just been passed?
Yes, they do, and Barnier was quoted this week as being a bit uncomfortable with the anonymous disclosure, which we like. He doesn't like that. I think he's more inclined to want to pursue a softer locate. So we like some of what he says and not other things.
And as these two bodies try and fuse together and compromise, does that equal quite a lot of time, or do they have to do that quite quickly?
Well, it does depend on how quickly they can reach an agreement, but I think there's a lot of political will for it to happen. So my guess would be that sometime later this summer we'll see an agreed text.
Okay. Once that text is agreed, is it then up to the individual countries to adopt that?
Well, importantly, this is a regulation, which means that once it's passed, it applies across Europe straight away, unlike a directive which has to be implemented.
So would this mean, so France and Spain and the UK all have sort of some disclosure? Do they then have to drop that in favour of this regulation that's come in, or they add that on top?
The idea is for it to be a harmonised regulation, and so the UK and France and Spain will be required to change their rules to meet the new EU rules.
Sorry, I've grilled you. We've gone into more detail, but it's such a key area, isn't it? Anyway, I mustn't take up any more of Kevin's time. He should go off and fight the next battle, which I think you're off to do next. Thanks very much for coming in. I'm going to write that up, and if you'd like, I have written that up, in fact, by the time you're watching this, and if you'd like to read it in a bit more detail, and there'll be some links through to ISLA's website. It is at dataexplorers.com/news.